What if everything you've ever believed about who you are was only a sliver of the truth? What if you were never meant to live life as a reaction, but rather as a conscious creation? Imagine for a moment that the power you seek is already inside you, not in a mystical sense, but in a biological, neurological, energetic truth backed by the very fabric of your being. You are not merely a person moving through life. You are life moving through a person. You are the observer, the feeler, the thinker. But more than that, you are the architect. Every thought you rehearse, every emotion you allow, every action you take, consciously or unconsciously, forms the mold of your personal reality. The truth is, you are not a victim of circumstances. You are the container of potential. You were never meant to survive. You were designed to expand, to evolve, to embody your highest frequency. And that begins with a single decision to believe in yourself, not as wishful thinking, not as blind hope, but as a discipline, a commitment, a spiritual and mental practice. Because belief in self is not given, it is earned. It is built every time you override the old voice. Every time you act in alignment with your vision, despite what the world reflects back. It is not about waiting for a better day to feel better. It's about choosing to feel now what you would feel if that better day had already arrived. Because the body doesn't know the difference between a real experience and one that's vividly imagined. With elevated emotion, that's science. That's how memory is made. That's how the subconscious is programmed. And that's how futures are pulled into form. When you begin to consistently feel the gratitude, love, abundance, and joy of the life you desire, before any physical evidence exists, you are no longer just hoping. You are embodying. And when you embody something, it becomes your electromagnetic signature. It becomes your broadcast into the quantum field. And the field, this intelligent matrix of possibilities, responds not to what you want, but to who you are. That is the essence of manifestation. That is the alchemy of reality. Creation. But to get there, you must stop rehearsing the old emotions. You must catch yourself when you begin to spiral into resentment, fear, judgment, shame, or guilt. You must understand that these states are not just bad feelings, they are frequencies tied to the past. Every time you activate them, you reactivate your past self. You re-enter the identity that created your current results. And so, day after day, people wake up as the same version of themselves, expecting a different reality. They carry the same thoughts into the new day, repeat the same actions, feel the same feelings, and wonder why nothing changes. The answer is simple. You cannot create a new future from the energy of your past. If you want transformation, you must shift your identity. Not superficially, not as a mask or a performance, but in your neurochemistry, in your cellular memory, in your energetic field. You must become emotionally and mentally coherent with the future you claim. And that means feeling the feeling of your desired future now. When you do, your brain begins to wire in new ways. New neural circuits are formed. Your body begins to regulate differently. Your heart becomes more coherent. Your energy aligns, and life begins to respond. You notice synchronicities. You feel guided. You stop chasing and start magnetizing. And suddenly, what once seemed impossible now seems inevitable. Not because the world changed, but because you changed. You became the match for what you desired. And that is the work. Not to try harder, not to force outcomes, but to elevate your internal environment so profoundly that the external world must reorganize around you. The true journey is not outward, it is inward. It is the process of unlearning the patterns that kept you small. It is the practice of overriding the programs that kept you reactive. It is the sacred discipline of tuning your body to trust, to gratitude, to love, not after the breakthrough, but before it. That's what draws it in. That's what collapses time. That's what makes the difference between a person who waits and a person who creates. And yet, so many wait. Wait for the relationship to feel worthy. Wait for the money to feel secure. Wait for the success to feel empowered. But that's the old model, the Newtonian mindset. It says the external must change first. The new model, the quantum model, says change your internal state and the external will reflect it. Feel as if the thing you desire has already arrived and you become the frequency that calls it in. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is the rewiring of identity, and it works, but only if practiced, only if felt, only if you surrender your addiction to the past. And that's what it is, an addiction. We are addicted to our emotions, to our stories, to our struggle. We identify with our wounds, our pain, our lack, and the body becomes chemically dependent on those states. So when you begin to change, you'll feel resistance. Not because you're failing, but because you're healing. Because you're interrupting a pattern. Because you're stepping into the unknown. And the unknown is where all possibility lives. But it also feels unfamiliar. And the body craves the familiar, even if it's painful. So you must train it. You must teach it. You must lead it into the new. Over and over again. Until the new becomes the familiar. Until love becomes your baseline. Until gratitude becomes your default. Until your nervous system finds safety in the unknown. That's when you know it's working. That's when you're no longer waiting for change. You are the change. You carry the future within you like a song you can't unhear. You walk into rooms differently. You speak with presence. You think with clarity. You make decisions from alignment. And life meets you there. Because life is not random. It is responsive. It is reflective. It mirrors back the sum of your energetic state. And if that state is coherent, loving, open, and grateful, what can't you receive? Who can't you become? What dream could possibly be out of reach? The truth is, once you become it, it has to come to you. And even if it doesn't come on your timeline, it doesn't matter, because you're already living the emotion of it. And that is the point. To live as if, to feel as now, to believe in the unseen, not as a fantasy, but as a decision, because what you feel consistently becomes what you attract inevitably. So remember, you are not here to survive the day. You are here to break them. You are not here to wait. You are here to become, and when you live from that place, from that energy, from that knowing, from that power, the world shifts. And not just your world, but the collective world. Because when one person wakes up to their creative potential, they light the way for others. They become permission. They become proof. And we need that now more than ever. Not more fear. Not more noise. Not more judgment. We need coherence. We need vision. We need people who remember their future and forget their limits. We need you. And it starts with one choice: to feel now what you're waiting to feel later. To stop seeking and start being. To meet the moment as the version of you that already has the life you want. Because that version is not in the distance. That version is here, waiting to be embodied, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be chosen. So choose. Breathe into that vision. Fall in love with that frequency. Train your nervous system to recognize the feeling of your dream, and then hold it, practice it, live from it, and watch as the world around you begins to mirror the world within you. If you could remember your future as vividly as you recall your past, what would change? What if the intensity of emotion that once locked trauma into your body could now anchor visions of healing, abundance, freedom, and love into your biology, with equal or greater power? What if your greatest block to transformation wasn't the world outside, but the habits of thinking and feeling that you return to each time life challenges your expansion? We have been conditioned to believe that change comes only through pain, that transformation must be triggered by crisis, a death, a diagnosis, a loss, a collapse, something that shakes us out of unconscious autopilot and forces us to see that who we've been no longer serves where we're headed. And while that path has awakened many, it's not the only one. There is a higher way, one that begins not in chaos but in clarity, not in suffering but in vision. It begins when you stop defining yourself by who you've been and start becoming who you are destined to be. It begins when you no longer need pain as your teacher because purpose has taken its place. But to walk this path requires one thing, above all, awareness. You must see your patterns not as facts, but as choices. Choices you made once and kept repeating. You must become intimate with your inner world, with the voices that whisper you're not enough, with the reflexes that pull you back into fear, with the emotions that flood your body when you're about to step into something unfamiliar. Instead of reacting from them, you must observe them calmly, consciously, courageously. This is where the real power lies. Because if you can witness your unconscious without judgment, you can rewrite it. You can disarm the autopilot and take the wheel of your own evolution. You become the artist, not the echo. You become the conductor, not the noise. But here's what most people misunderstand. Becoming a new version of yourself is not about efforting your way into worthiness. It's about remembering. Remembering what it feels like to be whole. Remembering the intelligence of your heart. Remembering that you were never broken, only programmed to believe so. And once you remember, everything changes. Because the memory of who you truly are is encoded not in your intellect, but in your energy. It's a frequency. And when you tune into it even briefly, your biology shifts. Your chemistry shifts. Your heart rhythm changes. Your immune system strengthens. Your creative center activates. And what once felt impossible suddenly feels natural, even inevitable. That's how healing happens. That's how financial breakthroughs unfold. That's how relationships mend and align. Not because you chase them, but because you no longer carry the frequency of lack. You no longer carry the weight of shame. You've returned to the truth of your being, and that truth is magnetic. The field around you reorganizes in response. To your internal order, this is the science of inner work. This is why you meditate, why you visualize, why you feel the future before it comes. Not to manifest from a place of desperation, but to become the kind of person to whom that future already belongs. And this requires devotion, not to the outcome, but to the becoming. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the energy you continue to practice. And you are practicing something every single day, whether it's anxiety or peace, resistance or surrender, scarcity or abundance. Your body is memorizing your state, and your state is communicating with the universe. So, if you want to receive something different, you must become something different. And that doesn't mean faking it. It means feeling it deeply, repeatedly, until your cells recognize it as truth, until your subconscious no longer questions it, until your actions naturally flow from it, and when you fall back, because you return. That's the path. Not perfection, but presence. Not force, but frequency. And when you return again and again to the vision that moves you, to the love that empowers you, to the trust that grounds you, you rewire everything. You shorten the distance between the idea and the experience. You collapse the illusion of time. You stop going out into the world to make it happen and start allowing the world to bring it to you. You stop asking how and start trusting now. And suddenly, you're not trying to manifest a future. You're living from it. And that shift changes everything. It changes the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you breathe. It changes how people perceive you, how you perceive challenges, how you move through uncertainty. Because now you're not reacting, you're creating, you're not hoping, you're knowing. And that knowing is the key. Because when you know something deep in your body, the world has no choice but to reflect it. This is why emotional mastery matters. This is why you must train yourself to feel elevated emotions regardless of conditions. Because conditions are temporary, but consciousness is timeless. And the energy you hold today is building the architecture of your tomorrow. So choose wisely, choose deliberately, choose love when it would be easier to shut down. Choose trust when your mind screams for control. Choose expansion when fear begs you to play small. Every time you do, you evolve. You embody more of your soul and less of your story. And over time, that embodiment becomes effortless. It becomes who you are, and the life that matches it becomes your new normal. People will ask what changed. They'll want to know what you're doing differently, and you'll struggle to explain, because what shifted was invisible, but undeniable. You stopped aligning with your past. You started aligning with your potential. You made the unfamiliar familiar. And in doing so, you became sovereign. You took your power back, not from the world, but from within. And that power is available to anyone willing to feel differently than their circumstances, to think beyond their programming, to act in ways their old identity never would. That power lives in the moment. You decide to remember your future more often than you remember your pain. It lives in the breath you take when you could have reacted. It lives in the stillness you choose when chaos surrounds you. It lives in the smile you give when nothing external prompted it. That is the embodiment of creation. That is the echo of the divine within you. And once you taste that, you will never again settle for a life that asks you to forget it. So remember what it feels like to be free. Remember what it feels like to be guided. Remember what it feels like to be whole, even when the evidence says otherwise. That memory is not imaginary, it is prophetic, and the more you practice it, the more it becomes real, not just inside of you, but all around you. You become the proof, you become the bridge, you become the light that reminds others what's possible. And that, more than anything, is what the world needs now. Not more striving, not more noise, but people who radiate the future. Not as fantasy, but as fact. People who don't just talk about change, but are the change. People who show, through their being, that the greatest miracles are not out there. They're in here, in the heart, in the mind, in the moment you finally believe that you are the one you've been waiting for.